From Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world, I'm David Gabry, and this is the Vegas Faces Podcast, where we talk with Las Vegas locals about what it's really like to live in the City of Lights. Whether you're living in Vegas, moving to Vegas, or just visiting Vegas and looking for new adventures, together let's discover the hidden gems that make Sin City the most visited place on earth. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Vegas Faces. We've got a very unique episode today. My friends Cecilia and Ryan from San Francisco were just here in Las Vegas and actually went to Super Bowl 58. So I had to get them on, had to talk about it. A lot of people come to Vegas to celebrate the Super Bowl, but as far as I know, the only people I know, Cecilia and Ryan, actually went inside of Allegiant Stadium for the first ever Super Bowl here in Las Vegas. So Cecilia and Ryan, welcome to Vegas Faces. Let's talk Super Bowl. How do you guys feel? I heard Ryan was a little bit sick, which is not a surprise given the Super Bowl weekend in Las Vegas. I want to hear everything about it. I want to hear how you decided to come here for the Super Bowl, crossing things off the bucket list. I mean, this was like such a once in a lifetime event, and to actually be there in person, I'm thrilled to have you guys here. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us. I guess we should start with how we made the decision to go. That was a fun little backstory. So we were in New York February 2nd through the 8th, so right before the Super Bowl, that week in between the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. And when we were in New York, it was that first Saturday that we were there. I made a comment to Ryan that morning in the hotel room, and I said, "Hey, is JY, his friend, thinking of going to the Super Bowl?" He goes, "Yes." And I just said, "Uh-huh." And then we go to we just go to a dive bar in New York City later that morning. I guess it was around noon. And we're sitting there, and Ryan's like, "So I know you asked if JY is going to the Super Bowl. I want you to know that I bought a flight after," or I guess you could tell this part of the story.
Basically, I had gone with the philosophy: shoot first, ask questions later, and I bought a flight with my buddy JY the day of the NFC Championship game to Vegas. His brother lives in Vegas, so we had a place to stay, got a flight cheap, and we're like, you know what? If we make it, we've got a flight, we've got a place, we just got to figure out tickets. If we don't, we can cancel within 24 hours. So as Cecilia mentioned, we went about a week or so without saying anything. And finally, I had to come clean going, so I have a flight. I'm going to go to Vegas. This is not our first rodeo. I went in 2019 with my friend JY to Miami. So she knew this was not good news. But long story short, she essentially kind of gave me a long-winded story of I want to watch the Super Bowl with you. I want to be in San Francisco and celebrate. And I was on the other end of it saying, this is a bucket list item. I got to go. Yes. I have to my team if they win. And it kind of hit me where I realized how much she wanted to be with me in the Super Bowl. And part of it was, okay, I'm going to flip the script, but also I'm going to throw a Hail Mary because I still really wanted to go. So I said, why don't you and I go to the Super Bowl? And it quickly changed the conversation from me going and asking for forgiveness to both celebrate this. Let's both make it a bucket list item for both of us, not just me. Fast forward about 48 hours, she thought about it and was like, yes, let's go.
Well, you cut out some important details. So yes, we're at the dive bar. I give my cute little speech, my impassioned speech about wanting to watch with him. So he, like you said, flipped it to have us both go. And I was like, I really need to think about it. And at that point, when we were at this dive bar, he then was starting to go into sales mode and try to sell me on it. And he is in sales. And at one point, I think I told him, I was like, you're trying to sell me on it. I was like, I just need to think about it. And I was like, I'm going to need to phone a friend. And the one friend who actually, I think Courtney Maccabee from Arizona. So she went to the Super Bowl when it was, because they're Bengals fans, Bengals Rams in LA. So I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I want your opinion. Should I go or not? You went, how was it? And at this time, I was also thinking, like, who am I to stop Ryan from his dream of wanting to go to the Super Bowl? And I just kept going back to that. And so the next day, I told him, I was like, all right, I consulted Courtney. I'm in.
Wow. And so Ryan, you said something about you went to the Super Bowl in Miami a few years back.
I did, yeah. So I actually went the last time the 49ers played the Chiefs and went with my friend. We went for the whole weekend, which was a little different this time. This was more, as I jokingly have called it, a business trip. So in Miami, I went Friday to Monday. This time around, we left at
Oh,
5
so
a.m. flight?
early.
Yeah, on Sunday, the day of the game, and then came back the following day. So it was a very quick in and out trip this time.
Yeah.
Wow. Where how did the tickets, because Miami is a notoriously expensive city, just like Vegas. Which tickets hurt the wallet more?
Definitely Vegas. Miami was interesting. So at the time, I was working in sports. I was working for the Golden State Warriors, and my friend Jake as well, JY, was, and we kind of banked on our sports connections, hoping someone could hook us up with a good deal, get them through like a broker or a friend or a vendor. And we ended up getting scammed, unfortunately, in Miami,
Oh
lost some
no.
money, and it fortunately worked itself out. But we bought tickets about 3 hours before the game in Miami on StubHub, and that one was something where we spent about the same per ticket, but we're down in the lower bowl in the corner on the sideline. This time around, we were in the upper level, first row, but about at the 10 or 20 yard line. So definitely a pretty big price discrepancy there.
Wow. Yeah, how does one even go about buying Super Bowl tickets? So you mentioned like scams and things like that. Like how do you make such a large purchase knowing that it's a legitimate purchase?
I think you should tell your little Chase Bank story
Well, that's also
from
fun.
you. Yeah,
Um,
that one's fun.
but yes, for anyone that is thinking about going to a Super Bowl in the future, always go through a reputable source. Ticketmaster is the official reseller of the NFL, so that's definitely first and foremost. You'll probably pay the most there. If you don't, there are a lot of other good resellers out there that will guarantee your money back if, for whatever reason, the ticket isn't authentic. And I won't give an education on that. This time around, we went on StubHub though. And funny enough, due to the size of the purchase, because the first time, well, I guess it was the same, but this time around, we were in New York and I was like monitoring ticket prices, trying to find the best deal. I've seen how the market goes, when it'll go up and go down. And based on the last time, it was around the time where I saw ticket prices were at their lowest. And I was like, okay, I got to pull the trigger. I got her permission to go like, okay, just trust me. I'm going to get tickets probably today or tomorrow. I'm seeing prices drop, but they're bottoming out.
And real quick, was this like
This
just
was
days
when
before the Super Bowl?
this was
Like
Wednesday before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
like if like for people wanting to go to future Super Bowls, do you think that there's like a certain day or time of year to buy the tickets? Is it best at like the last minute? Like what's the best time?
So it's funny because normally, based on like everything I've known from working in the industry, buying kind of day of, you'll probably get people desperate because they don't want to, if they're trying to actually sell the ticket, they don't want to just eat the cost of the ticket. So they'll typically drop prices out of desperation. In 2019, that didn't happen. There's a lot of factors that went into that. Just given the Niners hadn't been in a while, it was the Chiefs going and possibly winning their first, Miami. So we ended up kind of having to pay more than we expected. This time around, I realized, okay, let's remember the kind of pattern that happened. And the same pattern happened in 2019 when we purchased. Right after the game is kind of finalized, prices go up. So don't buy then. That week, you'll notice the prices will fluctuate slightly, but it's really kind of the going into the first weekend in between. So there's usually that weekend off. That weekend and probably that Monday, Tuesday, prices drop because it's almost the lull of, okay, people didn't get purchases initially. Now they're starting to worry because it is such a bigger investment compared to just like a regular season game. Once media day hits, that's where prices will start to go back up. And that was the same
Wow.
exact pattern that happened this time. So once media day hit and I saw prices after they bottomed out start to go up, I'm like, buy now, they're only going to go up higher, which is exactly what happened. I went to purchase on that Wednesday. And I guess it's a good thing, but it was a very frustrating thing. I was using my Chase credit card. And
Need those miles.
yes,
The
of
points.
course.
The points.
effectively, Chase declined the purchase because they thought it was fraud. And I went, okay, good on you, Chase. Thank you for protecting me. But this is actually me. I answered the text and the email. This is me. I know it's a crazy purchase, but just let me purchase it. Um, I had to get on the phone with Chase for pretty much like 4 or 5 hours that day. They still couldn't do it. They locked my account because of so many attempts for the purchase at that price point. And I had to eventually, when we flew back home, go into a Chase bank, sit with a banker for over an hour where
Come
they had to get
on,
on
wow.
the phone with Chase, I don't know, their fraud department, and go, yes, I am with the client. He has his ID, he has his card. This is not a fraudulent purchase. Please let him go to the Super Bowl. Shout out to that Chase banker who worked with me. He was like, nope, I'm staying after hours. It was like after 5 p.m. He's like, you're going to the Super Bowl. I got to make sure you go. His name was Ishmael. If he's listening to this somehow, like shout out to you. Thank you so much. He helped me come true. But yeah, it was a lot of work. And again, Chase's fraud protection, they're doing their job, maybe a little too much, but it was definitely a crazy situation.
Oh my God. I'm point blank. I'm dying to know cost of the tickets. Are you willing to share that?
Sure. So here's the catch. If you go and buy tickets, try to buy through Ticketmaster.
Okay.
I personally have a vendetta against StubHub because the fees were almost double due to StubHub. So
Oh
each
wow.
ticket was just under, for face value, the price of it, just under 7,000. Because of the fees, it went up to a total of almost 17,000.
What?
So
There's like
yeah,
That's
3K in fees.
it was about 3K in fees, a little more than that. So that was that's the tough part because you're going, okay, I'm going to go to the game. I see the price and I know better. So I knew the fees would be there, but I couldn't believe how much in comparison to Ticketmaster fees to StubHub, it was way higher because I was looking at the same price tickets on Ticketmaster and they were actually going for probably like 15, I want to say, or 16 total with fees. So StubHub added quite a bit extra. The seat quality was better though. I took a chance and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to regret having a good seat for a little more given the price purchase versus if I'm
totally.
sitting in a far back row, it's not as good of a view. So I bit the bullet.
The other thing too is because Chase flagged his card as fraud, when he was originally going to buy on Wednesday, it was actually several $1,000s
Yes.
less. So Chase,
Ah,
they cost
Yeah.
us more
Yeah.
money as well.
Chase,
but
if you're
honestly
listening to this,
though,
you got 3 grand. So thanks.
I would say 17K for 2 tickets is not bad given what we as Vegas locals were hearing. Like we were hearing like average ticket for 1 ticket was like 15, so feels like not, I mean, obviously expensive. And it's funny because I'll joke with friends who will go to a concert and they'll be like, oh, the concert's like $800. I'm like, oh, that's a steal. Like Adele is like, 15, 20,000. Like you should you should pay that
Oh,
whatever it is. So as pricey as it is though, here's the thing. It's like a once in a lifetime, like you said, bucket list item. Like if you have the ability, if you have the means to do it, just do it. Like cuz otherwise what are we doing? We're just working and doing responsibilities and just maintaining and then we die. Like like I mean, you got to see the Niners. Now here's the next thing. You saw the Niners in Miami against the Chiefs. Unfortunately, didn't go your way, Niners way. And then again here in Vegas. So at least Niners got closer. Like that was like such a close game. How do you feel? Like we don't have to like talk a lot about sports, but in terms of like how you feel, like do you think that this is going to be like another matchup again? Do you think that the Chiefs have a dynasty, like a Tom Brady style, Patriots style dynasty that Niners are going to have to get them again in the future? What are your thoughts on all that?
yeah. I mean, coming from the first time when I watched the Niners, unfortunately, blow the fourth quarter lead in Miami, it was gut wrenching, heartbreaking, all the words to describe it. But it was like, okay, we're coming back. We're gonna get back here. We want the Chiefs too. For the football fans or Niner fans, we've had our chances to get back to the Super Bowl, and things haven't broken our way for the past 2 years. And then this year, we finally made it back. Um, this one going into it, it was funny. My friends would ask, "Who do you think's really going to win?" And I said, "Look, if I'm betting, you take the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, is a no-brainer. Just do it." I'm like, as a football fan that's emotional, I really think the Niners could upset this because I really believe the Chiefs were going to win. It was pretty tough to watch it. being at the game, we didn't really realize Dre Greenlaw's injury with the torn Achilles, which was horrific, which I've actually done myself as well. So that was tough, and that definitely changed the game. There's all kinds of things we could talk about and dive into the what could have happened, the what we should have done. This one, it's funny. It probably from the actual game was a more emotional, painful loss, but because I knew the capabilities, and I can't take anything away from really the Chiefs, but more so Patrick Mahomes, it was like once they got the ball in overtime, she saw me. I was like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
inevitable. That's kind of the joke I've had is like, he is inevitable. We are witnessing, and that's the one thing that as a sports fan, I have to kind of, take my 49er hat off and put the sports hat on. I've seen Patrick Mahomes do the unthinkable twice. And it's crazy to see how talented he is. The path he's on, he's going to probably, if he continues doing what he's doing, he's not just going to be the greatest football player of all time. He's going to be up there in like the Michael Jordans, the Serena Williams, the Tiger Woods conversations of greatest athlete in professional sports, like, competitor ever. And that's what we have to kind of remember as much as it stings. I do think the Niners have probably 1 or 2 more years of a window to get back there. And I do anticipate we'll probably see one more rematch. Hopefully we'll get one. That's kind of how I'm thinking. Like, I just need one now. Versus in 2019, I was like, ooh, this could be like the Warriors Cavs. We're going to see each other a lot more often. But football's different. It's really tough to get back there. So I hope we can get in that situation and have another shot. But
I'm also
lots
just
gonna
proud
change.
of the Niners. I mean, honestly, this was our first full season with Brock Purdy, and he took us all the way to the Super Bowl. Like, for Mr. Irrelevant to do that, I don't know. It was a really, really fun season, and I think for me, even though the Niners lost, because I was there and experienced the actual day, which we can get into, um, it stung less. I think if I actually would have watched it in San Francisco at a bar with my friends, I think I would still not be over it. But because that was such a great experience,
Yeah, take
uh,
me through it. Take me through, like, you
we
guys
can go.
came in at 5 a.m. Like, the airport was like way, way overloaded. I heard the airport had to build like 20 extra acres worth of space for planes to land in, like private
Yeah.
jet space, all kinds of craziness. Tell me all about it.
So our alarms go off with a 3 in front of it at like 3 a.m. that morning. So we go to SFO, hop on our flight that departed at 5 a.m. I was actually surprised to meet other Niner fans at the airport that were going to Vegas just for the experience who weren't planning on going to the game.
Right.
That was surprising. So we land super early. Actually, as we were going through one of the terminals to exit the airport, I saw the sunrise. I was like, wow, it's so early. The sun's not even up here in Vegas. And then we got to the MGM. That's where we stayed that night. Super early, had breakfast. Our room was ready at around 10:30 a.m., dropped off our stuff. And then from there, we started the walk, the 30-minute walk to Allegiant Stadium, which I will say, like, staying at the MGM within walking distance to the stadium was so clutch, not having to deal with Ubers, taxis, none of that. And so we got through, I guess this makes sense, but you go through security first before they even scan your ticket. And then you walk another long ways before your ticket gets scanned, and then you're finally in.
And that's like in a perimeter surrounding. It's not actually, so like, it's pretty interesting because most sports stadiums, once you scan your ticket, then you go into the game and you can't go out. Versus since there's a perimeter, like there was no bathrooms outside. So like if you had to go to the bathroom before the game, you'd go into the stadium and then you could walk back out to the tailgate. So it was really interesting. I will say Vegas, I have an experience of, we can call it 2 Super Bowls, but 3. Santa Clara, San Francisco hosted one.
But you didn't go to that.
I didn't, but where I'm going with it is the entire experience was so much better and almost it felt like it was built for Vegas. The fact that, like, the best example I can give you is out of Miami, it took us almost 4 hours to get out of the stadium and back to our hotel in South Beach after the game. With Vegas, we just walked right back to the Strip.
Mhm.
It was easy, and that's where
And that's what Courtney also said to me when I was consulting her on whether or not I should go, because she went to SoFi in LA and she was like, it took us 2 hours to go 4 miles to get to the stadium for that Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And she's like, you're not going to have those logistics in Vegas. So I'm happy we stayed at the MGM. I was honestly shocked because we booked the flight and the hotel, we booked the Sunday before the Super Bowl. I was shocked that there was even a room. And then the next day I went back to look at the MGM and it just said sold out. So I got lucky that night that I booked it. But yeah, it was being able to walk there. And then once you get in through the tailgate, they have all these professional photographers everywhere. They'll take your photo. They give you the little card. So I have gone through to look at the 3 photos we took. TBD if I end up buying one for $30.
Nice.
Yeah, TBD.
They give you a little souvenir. Yeah, I like that. And you showed me before we started recording. You showed the Usher bucks that they threw out to all of you in the crowd.
Yes. So halftime performance definitely was awesome. At the end, Usher made it rain with Usher bucks.
At first, I thought it was real. When it came down, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It looks real.
Yeah.
And then I realized, Usher bucks. But yeah.
How many drunk people you think in Vegas that night tried to pass it off in the casino?
That was the first thing I said. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like the casinos, obviously, they'll immediately spot it out. But I was like, knowing it's Usher bucks, he's making it rain for his performance. I'm like, this is going to be pretty funny. The amount of drunk people that are probably going to the strip club and just throwing them in the air. Oh yeah, it was great. It was quite comical.
I will say, and this shouldn't surprise me because it's Vegas. Yeah, there were some fun outfits also at the Super Bowl of people who maybe weren't with, any team and they were just there. But yeah, the tailgate, it was great. They had food trucks set up outside too. So that's what I ended up eating. I didn't, did that earlier. The cheerleaders were around. There was some live music.
They had like Cirque du Soleil performers out there. It was truly just like a top like performance across the board. Like the thing I've told everyone that I've talked to about this is Vegas will get more Super Bowls, but it's going to be in that like kind of category that the NFL goes. It's in a consistent rotation between LA, Miami, New Orleans. Yeah. Those 3 in Vegas and in Phoenix also. Those 5, it's like it's going to be going. And I think Vegas, rightfully so, should get it the most. I mean, it was a perfect opportunity for the Super Bowl. As far as I know, it went off without a hitch, like from their standpoint, and they're going to be hosting a lot more. It's just the perfect setup. My friends joked, surprisingly, my fantasy football group, it's a bunch of guys that I used to work with. Almost half of us were there, just out of sheer coincidence. And we met up before, and it was pretty funny because we're like, the Super Bowl needs to be in Vegas like every year. It's the perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a regular season game for the Raiders. Regular season game, doesn't matter, no pressure. And Iggy Azalea was, is that Iggy Azalea? Either way, she was popular like 10 years ago, but still a huge name. That was the halftime performance. And I'm like, that could have been a Super Bowl halftime performance 10 years ago. And she's just performing a nothing regular season game. Yeah, like that's how Vegas just does that. Like Little John's in the crowd. And I'm like, this is like not a big deal game.
Yeah. So Cascade DJ'd the Super Bowl. He was there like all pregame, before they brought out the other performers. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I was telling some of our other friends, like I had a couple questions around like, I don't know, restrooms, like logistical questions, where the team store was, where the official Niner tailgate was. Everyone that I walked up to that was in the official NFL game day that they had the lanyard, every single, I assume, NFL employee that I spoke to, all knew their shit. They all knew exactly like the answer. I was very, very, very impressed with the logistical side of it.
Wow. Was everything else inflated, like flights and hotels and the resort fees and all that stuff? Like, was that?
Yes, because we booked last minute. I mean, we booked a week out. So, if you book a flight less than 14 days in, you're paying up the wazoo. Yeah. The flight going there wasn't bad. It was the one coming back.
And because I technically had 2 flights. So to give you an idea, booking on the Sunday of the championship games, early in the morning before the Niner game started, I got a round trip flight for about $300.
You did it in points, right?
I mean, it
Or
was points, but
yeah,
it was the value of $300. For this time when we booked it,
much.
it was what, 1,600
Yeah,
total for the two of us, so 800, so more than double. So that's why for anyone thinking of going to the Super Bowl, if you are going to do it, the best way to reduce your cost, book your flight the Sunday that your team's playing in the championship game, unless you're just going no matter what. Book it before teams are finalized. That way, if you have skin in the game because your team may be going, you can cancel as soon as your team, if they don't win their championship game and don't get a ticket, you can cancel 24 hours. But you'll secure a much better price point. Same with the hotels. The biggest thing, though, is the hotel prices. Those are typically always, like, I remember the last time I went, that was tough. Miami, I stayed in a hostel, which was actually quite nice for hostel standards. It felt like a hotel, just a hostel setup. But yeah, that was the only way to reasonably afford a place to stay in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that you'll make this a thing? Like Super Bowls is now your big vacation splurge, or do you see that as a one off and now let's go to Fiji or something crazy?
Here's what's funny, David. After Ryan went to Miami, I was like, well, I'm glad you checked off the bucket list. And he's like, he looks at me dead in the eye and he's like, but the Niners didn't win. So I knew at that point that if they make it again, he would want to go. And I know you don't remember this, but I remember saying this to him 4 years ago. I was like, well, fine. I was like, well, the next time then I want to go too. And I guess that ended up happening. No, we fortunately, like, Ryan invested in Bitcoin back in the day, and that actually ended up covering our entire.
Nice. Thank
I like how you put invested. No, I joined the Bitcoin craze, put some in, and fortunately, it leveled out to about almost the exact amount for this trip. So after we came back, the dust had settled. We were talking about, okay, now that this is all over, realistically, how are we going to pay this off? Like, what are we really thinking about, like, doing it? Like, it's on the credit card, so we have a little bit of time, but like, what are we doing here? And I just went, you know what? Let's just use it. It's destiny. Let's not stress and I have to figure out how we're going to pay this off or pay this down. Like, just get that done. Take care of it.
We were debating, like, we were like, do we do a zero interest balance transfer, pay that off? Like, we didn't want to go just, we wanted to keep reserves. So Bitcoin was the right thing to do.
The answer is, I don't know if we'll make it a regular thing.
No.
But if the Niners make it again, I'll put it this way. History has a funny way of repeating itself.
But
so
not against
we'll probably
Mahomes.
be there.
This is a good question. Would you go again if it's a rematch?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, to be the best, to beat the best. You got to beat the best.
Exactly. So it's emotionally, it's as I told her, Mike, it went from the first time, okay, anything could happen, to the second time, okay, we're going up against Mahomes. This is scary. I know what can happen. If we get a third time, I'm going from the confident sports fan of, okay, we want to do this. We want Mahomes. We want revenge too. I'm very scared. I'm very worried. Like, it will be like a terrifying experience this third time if it does happen.
Where we sat in the stadium was a mix of Niner and Chiefs fans. Mm-hmm. To my right were Patriot fans that we were trying to convert to root for the Niners, but they were going home rooting for the Chiefs, which was very disappointing. And then to Ryan's left, there are these two guys. They had no skin in the game. They just apparently gamble a lot and got their tickets at face value through the casino. And I overheard the guy say that those tickets were a little over $4,000 each. And then, a lot of Niner fans though in our area, which was nice.
Wow. Aside from like the pictures that you guys had, you said that they took pictures for you guys. Like, were there any like giveaways, like any like, hey, welcome to the Super Bowl 58 here in Las Vegas. Here's a, whatever souvenir.
Rally rag.
Yeah, they had like those rally towels.
But it was Niners. It says "Do It for the Bay."
Yeah,
and it had the Super Bowl logo on it.
They had just kind of like a Super Bowl rally rag.
Yeah.
They had a Chiefs. They had a Niners one.
What was inflated? Definitely the Super Bowl merchandise. I was not expecting those prices.
Yeah. What is it? Cost of a T-shirt?
Well,
it's like $50 probably.
No, more. Well, a T-shirt, yes.
T-shirt. But like a zip up, $150. Like a thin, like not a thick one. Yeah. The thicker ones were like $250. But yeah, that was definitely inflated. The stadium drinks, food, none of that felt inflated to me. That just felt like normal stadium prices for
Well,
like Vegas.
we
But
also have to put a disclaimer in there. Being from the Bay Area, sports
Chase Center
arenas,
is
yeah,
really
Chase
expensive
Center,
here.
Oracle Park, where the Giants play, even Levi Stadium, they're very expensive concessions as is. So we weren't really blown away by those prices, but from what I heard, a lot of fans that were there were shocked. To us, it was kind of I expected that. It almost felt like it was just like it. So the fear I have is the Warriors will be hosting the All-Star game next year, I believe. I can't think
Nice.
of what the center prices will be for just like a water or a beer at that
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, but
Wow.
actually, because I had food from the food truck. I actually felt like it was normal pricing, like pregame.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the inflation on the Super Bowl merchandise. That was for
Yeah.
sure.
Wow. And so was it literally you just flew in, went to the Super Bowl and flew back out? Or did you spend like any time
So
anything else?
post game, originally Ryan was like, I was like, "Are you going to make me sit here watch this trophy ceremony? I really don't want to be here." He's like, "Yes, we're going to watch it." And then finally, he was like, "All right, we don't need to watch it. We can go." So we started our walk back to the MGM as sad Niner fans, and we ended up going to the MGM food court with all the other sad Niner fans because at that point we weren't in the mood to celebrate. And on the walk back, there was nothing to celebrate, but well, still a great season. On the walk back, it hit us. The adrenaline of being up since 3 something in the morning hit us. And like, I just got so tired. It just hit all at once on that walk back. So yeah, food court. And then I think we were in bed by 10. And our flight the next day wasn't bad. It was at 2:40. So we got to, not
Perfect.
have
Sleep in, late checkout.
Yep.
yeah, went and had like lunch at the MGM and then went to the airport.
Yeah. I had a few.
Definitely noticed the hungover people.
Yes. There was a few friends of mine that were there though, and one of them has been to like a full Super Bowl weekend, and he definitely had the perspective of like there was all the parties, all the events. He was like, it was just it was way better just because it's the Vegas effect. It was much more difficult to get into a lot of these things as well because of the Vegas effect, but he said it was like very much an incredible experience just across the whole weekend.
Ryan, since you work in the sports industry, do you? I know you said you see it being in Vegas again, the Super Bowl, but like, how many years until Vegas gets another Super Bowl? You think?
I would imagine before 2030. It comes down to they're going to want to do a couple like experience, like new arenas that they'll want to expose. We've seen it happen where like they've done New York now and Minnesota, but it's a dome. But even like cold weather areas or places that you wouldn't think is like a destination. Vegas just checks all the boxes. I mean, the gambling alone, now that, gambling is just so much more mainstream, that is a huge part of it. I think it was like beyond record setting weekends for Super Bowl weekend for Vegas gambling, from my understanding. So I don't know how far in advance they have it planned out as of now. I would probably take a guess of probably they've got it through 2027 or so, but I'd say it could be as early as like 2030. We could see it again.
It is
Yeah.
coming to the Bay Area, Super Bowl 60 in 2 years. Back, Levi's in Santa Clara will be hosting again where the Niners play. And we hosted Super Bowl 50. And at that time, Ryan doesn't work in sports anymore, but at that time he won a sales contest. So he got to go to one of the Super Bowl parties when Super Bowl
Nice.
was here.
Yeah.
So yeah, just even I remember from that time too, just all the parties leading up to that week and the extra buzz in the city for sure.
Yeah, it definitely made Vegas extra electric on top of what it already is that
Yeah.
week prior leading up to Super Bowl, which I feel like we didn't get leading up to Formula One. I don't know if you guys are Formula One fans or know much about Formula One, but I always think it's interesting to compare which was better for Vegas. I know Formula One's going to be here for the next 10 years,
Wow.
supposedly, but so I don't know. I don't know what people, maybe just because I'm not that big of a Formula One fan, I feel like Super Bowl was a much friendlier, warmer, fun party kind of vibe. Whereas Formula One, it was just a bunch of construction, and then it happened, and then there was still construction, and then Super Bowl set up to where it was like, okay. But again, I'm not a huge fan, so I don't know.
I will say it was definitely like you felt the energy walking through the casinos on Super Bowl Sunday and just like out in the streets that day. Like you felt it.
And I think to your point too, the construction aspect with Formula One, and I'm not a huge I'm not a Formula One fan at all. I think that probably definitely plays a factor into it. Whereas with this, it's more so just a couple street closures, maybe redirecting of traffic. But also from what I was hearing and reading about with Formula One, it was the first real big type of event like that, like Super Bowl level, Formula One level event for Vegas. So it was almost, they were jokingly saying that was the warm up for the Super Bowl. So my guess is Formula One will get better. I didn't realize it was going to be a repetitive thing. So if there's going to be another Formula One race to that extent next year, that'll only increase and get better in time.
Yeah, good way to put it. All right, I have exhausted you guys on your reliving your Super Bowl weekend, but seriously, thanks for even coming on here and sharing with the weekend with us. It was really fun to just kind of go through the whole thing, and I hope that you guys feel good about coming here, regardless of the outcome. And maybe in the next couple of years, when San Fran hosts the Super Bowl, that might be the time for San Fran.
Hopefully. I will say, if there's any city that I would go back to a Super Bowl if my team wasn't playing, it would 100% be Vegas. Like, it was just an incredible experience. We love going to Vegas when we can. So it was just like a cherry on top. We made it a business trip, as I jokingly said. So we were only there for a day. But in reality, I think if we were to go back again, you have to do the whole weekend, because I can only imagine what it was like. And from what I heard, it was incredible. So thanks for having us, David. This has been fun. And hopefully we'll see you in Vegas for a Super Bowl again in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for subscribing to Vegas Faces on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok under the name Gavri Group. That's Gavri Group. Thanks, everybody. See you at the next episode.